Welcome back, and we're live here at the studios in Johannesburg on this very first day of Ramadan. Definitely an inspirational segment with Inspired Afternoons with myself, Nafisa Dango. We're going to be chatting to a young lady who's just traveled with African Muslims Agency to Lebanon. And she's going to be talking to us about her experiences there. Let me just tell you a little bit about her. She's a phenomenal young human being. She's the founder of the Balloon Foundation, as we know, giving back in many directions to the orphanage in Hillbrow. Atiyyah is 22 years old. She recently qualified as an occupational therapist, completing her community service. She's one of the founders of the Balloon Foundation, which is a youth-run organization that aims to use people's skills and talents to give back to those in need, particularly within local communities. She recently joined African Muslims Agency on the hashtag More Than a Meal campaign on the ladies delegation to Lebanon. And she's going to talk to us this afternoon about her experiences there. And of course, painting us the real picture of what is really happening in Lebanon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum, hope you well, and thank you to all the listeners who are tuned in.
Wa alaikum salam, Ramadan Mubarak to you. Thank you so much for taking the time out. It was a pity that we couldn't hook up while you were there in Lebanon itself due to the, of course, signal constraints and everything else that went with it. But I want to so thank you for coming on air today to be able to share your experience with us and create that added value for people to actually really understand the real situation that is out there as opposed to what is being painted. So Jazakallah so much for taking the time out, and we hope you're having a really very good first day in Ramadan. Of course, not too much of a good experience as far as Lebanon was concerned.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be on your show. Yes, so we got back last week, Wednesday, and it feels, they say your life can't change overnight, but Lebanon definitely changed life overnight for me and 13 other ladies that were with us on the delegation. But it's been an eye-opening experience, and I think we just merely wrestled here to share their stories with everybody listening so that we can really understand what is happening on the ground over in Lebanon.
So paint us a little bit of a picture. I mean, from when you got there, I mean, we know the impact of the Beirut blast that occurred last year and the influence it had on the Lebanese people was rather huge. And I don't think many people actually understood that type of impact that it had until you yourself went there and experienced what the people themselves are experiencing.
Yes. So I went onto this blindly. I didn't have any... I didn't know much knowledge before it. I wanted to go on blindly to really understand what the situation was. So we arrived in Lebanon and we had like just a few minutes to settle down, and immediately we were taken to the site of the blast. I didn't know what hit me and what I got myself into, because you're literally standing at the site where and everything is demolished around you. It would look as if it had just happened a week ago. Yet this occurred in August last year. And then we also realized that the impact that it has been so forgotten about, because we went just a few kilometers up and we went to a site where the homes had been destructed, and you can still see people's memories. So I was walking and I think I stepped into like someone's broken PS2. You see people's shoes. I actually found a green paintbrush that the paint had gotten hard on, but you could see the paint was still fresh on the window pane. So it just showed you that this was someone that was just going about their normal life at 6 p.m. and all of a sudden in a flash, everything was taken away from them. And that was a wake call out of nowhere. We were all exhausted and we like, wait, what is this actually? And then there was an old lady that came past. She wasn't part of the program or anything, just a normal lady walking by. And she stopped us. She said, thank you, because no one has been here since the blast, since the blast has happened. People were there initially, and after that, everyone's forgotten about it. And she said it's so hard for her to now take handouts and that kind of a thing, because she was once a wealthy woman going about her day. She's never had to beg anything. And all of a sudden, in a flash, there's no food at home. And her neighbors' kids who were like her kids are now dead. And, she's an elderly woman and people who were younger than her had passed on. And that's, I think, when this whole journey really, really started for us, when we opened our eyes and, try to fathom that anything can happen in a flash, and your basic needs like food is gone all of a sudden. And that's when we really start to understand, the impact of what a meal is. Because before that, on our way to the route, someone, why are you here? Can you tell us, what does the More Than a Meal campaign mean to you? And it didn't really mean much at that point. I mean,
Mm,
I'm here because I wanted to understand more than a meal campaign just so happened to be the campaign I'm here for. But I didn't understand the ins and outs of it, because why donate for one meal when you can, give to education, give to other things which are very important. So what
mm.
is the actual value of a meal? And I think now, if you ask me, I can list, we'll sit here all afternoon me explaining to you exactly why one meal does make such a huge impact.
Most definitely, and I think there is something many of us take for granted, is because we're having those 3 meals a day, and I don't think we realize the situation in Lebanon itself. The people in the rural areas in South Africa are really struggling on. But these people in these war-torn countries are having it 100-fold worse. And I think by you actually visiting the area has brought, I think, should we say, a lot of light onto to the situation by me looking at the footage and the pictures that you sent us, and visiting those families. What was it like having to come across orphans, and I noticed that absolute love that they had, irrespective of the situation they were in. They were like, just like holding on to you, and trying to find that hope that I suppose that they think they didn't have.
So I think before I can even get to that, most people don't really understand why Lebanon. So aside from the Beirut blast, which obviously impacted the economy, on the
Mm,
borders of Lebanon is Palestine and Syria. So all the refugees that are obviously out of their country, they flee to the border over there. So Lebanon, with its financial crisis, is now also holding all these refugees. So we visited both families that were impacted by the blast and those that were also refugees. And the experience was different in all, but they all had sort of common themes between them. So if I think of the families that we visited so many, but I think you passed by one of the pictures of the family where there was 8 kids sitting together. And that story for me was my breaking point this whole trip, because contrary to what you actually think, when it was, I think, the third day, and we went
mm,
there quite late in the evening, and Jihan was, who is from Urfa, an African Muslim Agency. She's an amazing humanitarian. She took us around everywhere. So she said, I want to take you to a home that's a sad story. So I said, Jihan, you've been taking me to sad stories all day. Sure, let's do one more.
right.
And then she said, no. We go into this house, and those 8 kids are sitting there in this one room. That's their whole house. It's literally
Sure.
just about 3 by 3 meters, and the house was quite smoked up. It was smelling burnt almost, and they were all just sitting and staring out the door at the mountain, and
Hmm.
on the outside of the mountain. But you would think they were all happy when we got in and they were jumping and excited. This family was not that picture that you imagine. We other families, yes, but this family, no. They were all just sitting in quiet, not speaking or anything. So we go inside and we ask them, what's the story here? So the mom explains that no, her husband had passed away last year because he used to collect plastic and he would burn the plastic at home to try create heat for the family, and he passed away
Hmm.
from the fumes. And on his deathbed, he told her, "Please, will you forgive me for dying, because I'm now leaving you behind with 8 children." And we were
Sure.
all shocked, because what kind of a man must you have to apologize to your wife for giving, like, leaving you behind with children? And many of the families, they will tell you, we make dua that we pass away after our kids, because who's going to take care of them? And then she said, no, her husband also told the eldest son, who was probably in his early teens, whatever you do, be an honorable man, don't steal, don't cheat. And then she
Sure.
carried on speaking, exactly. And she carried on speaking, and there's a girl in the picture. Her name is Rimas. She's around, I think, 3, 4 years old. And you know how kids, they speak out of turn. So Rimas jumps up and she says, no, I'm scared for Ramadan and Eid this year. So we asked her, why are you scared? So she said, I'm scared because this is the first Ramadan I know we won't have food. And I know it's the first
Hmm.
Ramadan I won't have my father. So we said, okay, what did you eat for lunch that day? So the mom said, no, I go onto the field and I take grass and I boil the grass and I feed that to
Oh,
my children. So we said, okay, what about supper? Because, it was getting late. So she said, no, I take one potato and all eight of us share one potato. And we were like, oh, we were hungry at that point of the day, even though we had eaten good food the whole day, and we all just kept quiet. We didn't know what to say. And then we asked Shimas, what's your dream? So she said, I want to taste an apple. So we had an apple somewhere on the bus, so we gave her an apple. And she said, this must be what Jannat would taste like. So
Oh my
immediately we had
word.
this laugh towards her where she said that. And then she carried on speaking, and kids again, they speak out of turn. So the mom was trying to hush her, but she carried on and she says, no, I really want a red dress and red shoes for Eid. So the mom told her, no, on Eid day, I'm going to lock the door and I'm going to force my kids to sleep during Eid so they don't know it's Eid day. Because I know when they go out on Eid day and they see the other kids, having food and having meals, I know I can't give that to my family. So it's for their own good that they don't know that it's Eid. And when I heard that, I was like, no, how can, Eid is such a special day. It's a day of blessings. We all look forward to it. And how is that a day that there's families halfway across the world that are dreading this day so much, yet for us it's such a lavish experience. And like I said, the common theme is they would just needed food. Food was the one thing that they would give them happiness, would give them joy, would give them blessing. And that's when you start to really understand the impact of a meal. And that's where that's I think was one of just a snapshot of what their life is like, because that was just one family. And when I came back and met people who went on other delegations, it's amazing to see how many of us had similar stories but from different families, which just shows what you think is the one in a million story is not a one in a million story actually.
Yes, I think a lot of the times we don't realize how many people out there are actually going through this type of situation, and the seriousness of the situation. And I think the saddest part about it is to see that form of poverty, and of course all those orphans that are getting left behind, where they're having to actually try and fend for themselves at such a young age. And I think that is very heart wrenching.
Yes, definitely. I mean, this came back on this Sunday. We had an event. I couldn't stop thinking. I mean, especially not even just this Sunday, every day since I've been back, you can't help by thinking that you know very well that you met like a 7-year-old boy that's out there trying to sell packets or gum or something to earn for his family. Remember, most of the men in these countries, they either passed away or they disabled because they were injured in war. So they can't contribute towards their families, they can't contribute to the economy. So it's left towards their kids and the adults and their wives or the woman to basically take care of them. And another story that also really touched us on the first day that we got there. They took us to an unmanaged camp and we met this 16, I think she was around 16 years old. Her name was Khadija. And she said to us, she had lots of little sisters. They were very cute. They were excited for us, everything. So Khadija was, a bit more held back. Asked her, okay, what do you do? So she says, no, I wake up every day in the morning. I walk to work, and every single day I get raped by my employer. So we
Oh my
asked her why
word.
to carry on. Exactly. And this is a girl with scarf standing in front of me, very modestly dressed. I asked her, how much do you earn a day? So she said she earns less than $1 a day. So I said, why do you
Sure.
carry on working, Because that's nothing. When you do the conversion in the currency, it doesn't even, it adds up to nothing. So she says, because who would provide for my family? Who's going to provide for my sisters? At the end of the day, they need food. I use that money for food, purely just food. And that's when you understand that by giving someone a meal, you're giving them their dignity, you're preventing a girl from being raped once a day. It might just sound like a meal, but it's so much more.
It
And
is.
that's
It's
when
the
you really
connotations behind it, Atiyyah. I mean, like you were saying, you're giving her dignity back. I mean, to be able to, I mean, she doesn't have an option but to put herself in the situation to be able to fend for her family, which is really sad to think that also that people like that would take advantage of a young person who's in that type of situation.
exactly. And so many girls experience one girl that's experiencing it because they all work for like quite low skill jobs. And regardless of that, they can't exactly study because even if they do find a way through the system to become a doctor or a lawyer, whatever it is, when they graduate, it shows on their certificate they're refugees. So there's no point almost in them, trying to do from their perspective. It's hard for them to study something and then so they can't use it. So they tend to just go for whatever job's going to give them immediate money.
Sure.
And You can't even blame them for that, because
No,
at
of
the end of
course
the day,
not.
they're just trying to make a means for themselves.
Yeah. And, there's so many heart-wrenching experiences that you had, but from the footage that you sent us, there was one that stood out for me, and I want our viewers to actually look at it to see what a mom had to do and what measures and should we say, distances she had to go through to be able to just try and feed her family in some way so people understand how difficult it really is. Let's look at that footage.
أنا بروح بجيب البندورة بالليل عشان ما يشوفوا لي الفولاد قدام المحلات الخضرا. حتى بيناموا بلا عشاء بلا أكل بلا شيء. أكيد إحنا بنحب رمضان وكنا هذيك السنة صمناه، يعني اللي كان وزعه بالحارة أكل ليجينا الأكل. ما كنت أعمل أنا.
وإذا ما حدا وزع لك أكل شو بتعملي؟
مش والله. إنه دين المصاري عشان أجيب لهم. يقولوا لي ما معي. أقول لهم بس مش كل مالي، بس كل مال أجيب للولد الحليب. يقولوا لي ما معي، أصير أبكي، أنا قاعد. صار يضل يبكي وما هقدر، صرت شو أحط له مي، أشربه مي، أقول يلا عشان يسكت شوي. ما يسكت، خلص بده حليب. كثير صعب.
I think heartbreaking for a mom to lose a child due to not being able to provide a bare necessity such as milk.
Nadi just said to us, she just broke down and she started to cry, and she just said to us that these are vegetables which she collects from the market during the night. She puts the kids to sleep and then she goes off to the market to scramble in the garbage looking for whatever they have thrown out, and she collects these fruits and vegetables and she brings them back in the hope that she may be able to use some of these fruit and vegetables. So it would be more than a meal to Hanadi. It would be giving Hanadi the opportunity to provide food, basic food for her kids, instead of having to scramble off to scavenge in the garbage.
Indeed, a very heart-wrenching story. I think it's gotten many of us into a very tearful, emotional mode, thinking that she couldn't even fend for her little baby. A simple thing that I think we take so much for granted, like milk. Having to try and give the poor child water because she couldn't even reach out to him, and then having to lose the child, and then still trying to fend for the family by rummaging in the garbage, I think is a really heart-wrenching, sad situation that a person is in. And I do think that it's gotten all of us going in many directions to think that we need to obviously pull together to be able to create a better situation for the people in that particular country.
Yes, definitely. I didn't even go see Nadi. That was the other groups that were with us that got, because we obviously split up when we were there. And I think I've watched that video 3 times now, and every time I watch it, it still gives me goosebumps. But the reality is, and just to put this in perspective for everybody listening, I can think of 3 other stories as I watched that similar. I met a mom who told me that the day before she went into labor, so I saw her baby was 1 day old the day I saw her, and the day before she said that she was using all of her money for food for her kids, and it was obviously low cost food. And when she went into labor, she had no money for hospital fees, and the doctor told her, I would rather let your baby die in your stomach than not get my money paid up front. So she had to go begging from door to door, neighbor to neighbor for money, because all of her money was used for food, which is in
Right.
need, you know. And at another mother who was pregnant, she was 8 months pregnant. Her husband had left her with her 5 kids for another lady, and she was now living in this little tent with her parents. And she said, aside from being afraid to go into labor, which is what women go through, I'm now afraid that my kids have food when I'm, you know, looking for when it comes to the time for me going to labor. Even during the Beirut blast, but those were refugees, but during the Beirut blast, we met a lady. Her name was Mirna. She was a single mom. She had enough money to go and buy her son milk. And when she was gone to buy her milk, the blast had happened, and her one eye, she lost her one eye. It was out of her socket.
Oh my word.
And she said she ran around for 25 minutes looking for her child, that she didn't even know that her eye was missing. So we can all understand the importance of food, what we would do to put our lives on the risk for food. I mean, in all stories, be it Lebanon, be it refugees, food is the most important need for these people, to the point that they risk their access to health, they risk their kids' lives, just their own lives, trying to scramble for food. And that's when you understand how it all links together. So yes, it is important to have good health. It is important to have education, 100%. But you can't have any of those if people don't have things by not having food.
I understand the importance of that. And I mean, if we look at it, it's not just there. There's many countries, including South Africa, where people are actually suffering from the poverty line, and it's really bad out there. You know, I think there's a lot of money that needs to be raised with regard to that. And as you say, the meal is the most important thing of the day. So I think we need to all pull together during, especially this really blessed month of giving, and reach out to those people that are really in dire need and need their lives changed for the better. And I think, you know, it's unbelievable to see the gratefulness that even if they just get one meal a day, it means so much to them.
Exactly that. And I mean, you know, I'm always trying to find ways for people to get involved, even if they don't have a lot of money. And so many people message and they're like, how can we get involved? You know, we don't have funds. I understand things were tough during COVID. But we've created a way where you can let us contact us, and we'll create a crowdfunding which you can share around with whoever you know does have the means to give. And you can raise up to 15,000 Rand to feed a village. Even if you don't reach up to 15,000 Rand, it costs 100 Rand for one meal. Any amount, you know, makes a difference at the end. And another way that I realized the impact of more than a meal is it actually creates opportunities of empowerment. So prior to going on this trip, I was someone who never really understood the whole handout approach. I was like, it's not sustainable. Why do we do it? You know, but I wanted to learn more. So when I went on this trip, I met a girl named Zaina. I think I sent you a video. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at it. But Zaina was someone that I received her video 2 weeks before I was going to Lebanon, and I knew I was going to meet her when I went there. And all she asked for was peanuts. So I took peanuts with her when I went to visit her. And I have never met a more intelligent 9-year-old girl. I can't still fathom the kind of conversations I could have with her. So she tells us, no, her family is really poor, and all she wants to taste is a green apple. And then I go on and say, Dana, do you not get bullied at school because your clothes are quite, you know, ratty? And I know a lot of kids, they complain that they get bullied at school. So she says, yes, I do get bullied at school, but at the end of the day, I'm luckier than all the girls sitting at school, because people from South Africa who I haven't even met know me, but I don't know them. So does that not make me empowered? And I looked at her and I'm like, you're 9. How are you thinking this ahead? And then she went on to saying she wants to be a teacher one day. And her brother, who was a little bit older, I think he was 11, he said he wants to be a doctor one day. So I said to them, are you not scared for your future? Because I mean, you know, finances are tough. So they both reply immediately, no, because we have faith in Allah. And I promise you, every single home I went into, if you ask them what you want, they'll have time to think about it. If you ask them, are they worried about their future, they reply immediately, no, that they have to work hard. And we couldn't really fathom that. And then I said to Zaina, if you could tell one message to the world, what would you say? So she says, I want every rich man sitting at home and watching this, I want them to remember to just treat me with kindness. Kindness, that's what I'm asking, because you never know when circumstances could change, and you never know if you could ever be in my position. So in life, always be kind to people. And I said, I'm someone who probably wouldn't have enough strength in me to stand up to a wealthy man and tell them off. And here's this girl, so strong and so brave, standing up for her dignity. And then we explained to her how the More Than a Meal campaign works. And we have like the tin they have. But basically, it's an initiative that started where kids around South Africa can collect a tin and they, fill it up with money from wherever they can. And then the money goes to the kids that benefit from more than a meal. So we were explaining to her, like, look, it's for the children, by the children, because children are helping you. She says, today, by me sharing my story with the world, I can now help people in 14 other countries, including South Africa, just by sharing my story. I don't have money to give to the campaign. And that's when you understand the value of going in and taking these people's stories and asking them to share their stories. And they're all very willing to share their stories. They call themselves the Forgotten Nation. So by going in and getting the footage, we remind people of them. So they're using their voice to empower themselves to gain access to food and for other people across the world by, everyone working together. And that's how you understand the cycle of empowerment could actually be something so much deeper than just a handouts approach, which is what it looks like. Yeah.
Anyway, we seem to be running out of time. I wish we could speak much longer about this. And what did this mean for you, very quickly?
For me, it means, understanding the strength of the people there and how much strength we lack here. Despite them having injuries that are still fresh, I've seen so many people without hands, without limbs, people who are raising large families. They all have strength in them. They don't just want you to, feel sorry for them and give them a pity party. Every person I saw there comes with a story, and every person there has amazing resilience and amazing strength. So I think that through the More Than a Meal campaign, we can give them the strength that they need.
We're talking about the campaign, Atiyyah. Give us quickly the contact details and how people can get involved, because I think that's imperative.
Yes. So you can check out the Africa Muslim Agency Instagram page or www.africamuslimagency.co.za, and you can then contact us through there, and you can donate towards the accounts any amount, but it's 100 Rand for a meal and 15,000 Rand to feed a village of up to 2,000 people.
Jazakallah so much for, should we say, giving us very serious insight into the situation there and your experiences that you came across firsthand. And I'm hoping that this will help people to understand the situation and, of course, help make a difference and empower those people in Lebanon. Jazakallah so much. And we will definitely, from the Salam Media team, you have our support, and we're hoping that we can help in some way. You take care of yourself, and thank you so much, for joining us.
Assalamu alaikum.
Okay. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Atiyyah Ghanchi from the Balloon Foundation, talking to us about her experience of firsthand going to Lebanon with Africa Muslims Agency and what it meant for her. And I think it's imperative, especially during this month of giving, to be able to get involved and uplifting those people's lives. We're going to go for a quick break. We'll be back with you in a moment.